All right, let's get to it, y'all. Let's get to it. Ty Butler We in the house, baby, on this chilly Wednesday here in New York City. Thought we had gotten over this. Thought we were seeing greener pastures with the weather, but you hear me clearing my throat. The winter just does not want to let go. Anyway, Ty D Butler is where you can find me. Hit me up in the comments, y'all. I want to make it a two-way conversation. That's where I'm at, Ty D Butler, on Twitter, on Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You know how we get down. My man Jordan Raanan, 8 minutes from now, is going to jump on, talk some Giants. Made quite a bit of news this week. Dexter Lawrence asking for a trade. And we will see if the team honors that trade request, or are we headed toward much to do about nothing, because like this tends to happen in the NFL. So I'm excited to talk to Jordan Raanan, ESPN NFL insider, all over this situation. And with us being 15 days away from the NFL draft, going to see a lot of smoke, a lot of reporting, because here's the deal, man. If the Giants can get like a ransom for Dexter Lawrence, I'm sure they'll make a deal. If you can get a first and a second, sure. But, and I'll throw this at Jordan when he opts on, I wasn't shocked by this trade request. I just wasn't. And that's not because I had been predicting this was going to happen, right? Like you see me on this show, I'm on the radio. You did not hear me at any point say, hey, you guys, you know what I think's about to go down? I think Dexter Lawrence is about to ask for out of the New York Giants. But despite that, the reason why this doesn't shock me is because we see this all the time. And it's also why, like, at this point, I wouldn't be panicking that much if I'm a Giant fan. This happens every single year. You get one of the best players in the league at his position, feel, hey, I'm underpaid, and it's time to cash in. Short shelf life in the NFL where, there's so much violence and you are one hit away from your career being over. And I want my bag. This happens all the time. But like, this isn't the NBA where a trade demand means, oh, that relationship is cooked. Like, it's over. The NFL is different. And I also feel like because Harbaugh, who is 63 years old, just exiting what was a half-decade long championship window for Baltimore, does not look at this Giant situation and say, yeah, we're in for a rebuild. And so I think he comes here like, nah, we can win with this team now. We can turn this around pretty quickly. All I know is making the playoffs. And now that I have a quarterback who, might not be Lamar Jackson, but in his, 11 games last year, showed he was pretty damn good, right? We can win some games this year. We can get into the playoffs. And I think adding to that, what was the Ravens culture? The Ravens culture was defense. The Giant culture was whatever the opposite of that is, right? So he pulls up with that on his resume, and that just leads me to think, like, just from a logistical standpoint, you don't trade one of your best players on that side of the ball and get better. Now, again, the caveat is if he's on the market and the team's willing to give you a boatload for him, sure. Everyone can be had. Everyone's got a price. But I just, like, my takeaway from this whole thing so far isn't that the Giants are actually going to trade him away. So I look at this and say, until proven otherwise, I do think something gets done and Giant fans won't have to panic. And and here's the thing too. Here's like the element of that is worth being addressed. one of the reasons why you would be in full blown panic is because, man, we're losing one of our best players. Like, how does that happen? But I don't think, because of the trust that you now have in this regime, I don't think that you're ever going to experience that panic, because if they do move on from one of the best players on this defense in Dexter Lawrence, you'd have to imagine it's a great trade. Like, the return is going to be that awesome that you're like, yo, we we just spun the block. Like, all the assets we just acquired in this trade, we're going to be pretty damn good for years to come. And that's the type of equity John Harbaugh has. Like, that is the type of proven leadership, cachet, like a guy of that magnitude who we have seen consistently win, coming from an organization that consistently made great decisions. You just got to trust that. And so I want to hear from the Giant fans. Hit us up in the chat. We're streaming live on YouTube. We are on Twitter as well, at Ty D Butler. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. My man Jordan Raanan pulls up. My man Jordan Raanan. He's going to hop on in a few minutes. I told him 11:30. So looking forward to talking to him. No one more plugged in when it comes to the New York Giants than Jordan Raanan. So I'm excited about that conversation. Another thing, too, is Jeremiah Love. I know that's been a hot topic the last couple of weeks. And you know, if he's there at 5, like, Tennessee can very much grab him at 4. Because I figured who I saw yesterday once again reiterate, yo, this is the best player in the draft. It's the best player. Same things we were hearing about Saquon, right? So I would disagree with the Giants going running back at 5, but not for the reasons people are mentioning. And that is the obvious. You know, we analogize this to the 2018 draft when they took Saquon. That to me made no sense, because they just like misjudged where they were in their timeline. And so, like, this, taking a running back here would make more sense than when they did it in 2018, because like, people just try to convince themselves, because they love Eli so much. Yeah, he's actually really good if you just build an offensive line and get the weapons around him. Eli was cooked at that point. They also didn't have the coaching needed to elevate them to where you think John Harbaugh can get them. So this team, having a proven head coach with young talent, including the quarterback who you're not playing, your stud wide receiver who you're not paying, big time money, like, this is where it would, in theory, make sense to draft a running back. I just find a hard time doing it because it's the 5th pick. And I'm always going to come back to that. And people, I understandably, which is why it is an interesting conversation, more interesting than it was in 2018, will have the pushback of, hey, man, you got a chance to draft the best player. And when I was doing the show, Bart and Carlin, with my man Bart Scott, Phil Sims was on, and he's like, there are certain drafts where you could take a running back and you inject him into a team, and he is going to be just as, if not more, impactful than a quarterback, just because of like how you view his ceiling, immediate impact. Like that. That's the type of promise Jeremiah Love has. And so, like, I get why this is a conversation. I just wouldn't do it. I can't pull the trigger on that. Like, that's the type of thing that could get you fired, bro. Like, I guess in theory, right? Any decision, like, you draft a bust at 5, and not that Jeremiah Love is going to be a bust, but in theory, any decision you make that is a catastrophic one, and that would be taking someone undeserving with the 5th pick as you're building your roster, whether you're a bottom feeder and you're rebuilding, or if you somehow, like Kansas City, they're not a bottom feeder. They're not a cellar dweller. They just had an awful year. Quarterback got hurt, so now they've got the 9th pick. So wherever you are in your timeline, if you get the pick wrong, like that's just a disaster. But Jeremiah Love stuff is interesting, man, because I think a lot of people have the Saquon PTSD. Which, by the way, there are other folks who are still like on that, like dying on the hill of, nah, man, it actually still was the right pick, like, and using him going to Philly to justify it being the right pick. My bad. I'm just trying to make sure we get Raanan on here. Hang on, y'all. Hang on, y'all. About to get my man on the show. Chop it up, talk some Giants. You heard the sound effect. Email going through. So yeah, man. Giants are interesting. You know, my football team is always interesting this time of year. Like, this is our Super Bowl. You're a Jet fan. Every single year around this time. Hype train. All the noise. No one quite does pre-NFL draft talk like Jets Nation, where we just, I mean, this is an annual exercise. Harville Reese or Bailey. This is an annual exercise. Annual exercise. Who do you want? Arvell Reese or David Bailey? Are we taking Ty Simpson at 16? All right, every single year we're beaten over the head with the same old storyline of who the Jets should get at quarterback. Is it too soon? And I'm just over it. I'm over it. Once we get to Thursday, April 23rd, I'm locked in. I get it. But the lead up to it sometimes can just feel like not even a snooze fest, but you're running on a treadmill. We've been having the same conversations over and over and over, and we're just ready to get to the action. A lot of foreplay. All right, let's get it popping already. You feel me? You feel me? So that's where we are with the New York Jets. The Giants, at least because of the Dexter Lawrence situation, have provided us with a little bit more intrigue. All right, here he is. Without further ado, the man of the hour, covers the Giants for ESPN. Handsome fella. My man Jordan Raanan pulls up on the show. Jordan, what's up, bro?
What's going on, Ty? I love that. Look at that. You got the little logo there. I like it.
Yeah, I'm trying my best, man. I got to get to your level at some point. So,
What do we call that? So that's like a picture of you, but it's a cartoonish picture of you,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So what do we call it? It's not that's not a caricature, right?
I guess it would be a caricature.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. You know what my problem with you is? You've
What's
gotten
that?
so big time. I tried to DM you the link, and your DMs aren't open.
Really?
Yeah, on Twitter. That's why I had issues. So I sent it to your ESPN email, because usually when I have somebody on the show, I'll DM them the link. But for some reason, I couldn't find your DMs.
All right. So let me just tell you, you're giving me way too much credit. So if you watch my podcast with Bobby Skinner once in a while, the Giants Nation show, Breaking Big Blue,
Yeah, you
you
guys
realize I become the old, almost technically incompetent person. So I did notice something with X, Twitter, whatever we call it these days, and I'm not being able to send DMs to people. There's like two separate versions. I don't know. So it's more just me being incompetent. Like, I don't know what the heck's going on there.
I thought it was that you had gotten like you had ascended to such a level of like status. You were just, I gotta close these DMs. I can't have people hopping in here.
No, no. I don't know what it is. I'm just technologically pathetic. That's more what it is. Sorry.
No, it's all good. But how you before we get to the Giants talk, it's been a while. Like, can we do a little catch up? How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. Life is good. We're in the off season. This is the good times when I'm around more and be able to do things, like coach little league and
Really?
fun stuff like that. And then we got the Giants. We got the new John Harbaugh situation where with John Harbaugh and Jackson Dart, there's at least some realistic hope, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, life is good, man.
Wait, so let's
You?
start. Let's start. I'm good, man. The kids are off this week, so it's a bit of a. It's one of those things where the revelation comes when I picked my kids up on Friday, and you saw like how happy the teachers looked, like to just get this next week and a half off, and it's like they're your problem now for the next 9 days. So yeah,
It's a lot.
it's
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 a
it's,
lot.
it's crazy. But
I
it's
brought my family to Arizona. They came to the owners' meetings, and my wife was like, I'm like, all right, they're yours. I got to work, but at least you're in Arizona.
Yeah, right. So how about this? Because you've got the pulse, you've got the temperature of the fan base better than anyone. So most excitement entering a Giant season. I know we're months away, obviously, but like as this whole thing is brewing, most excitement entering a season since when? Is it 2023 because they're coming off of a playoff appearance, or do we got to go back further than that?
Yeah, it's probably. I don't know if it's 23 because I remember saying going into 23, like they could be a better team, but take a step back in terms of the record.
Yeah.
I remember taking a lot of heat for that, and even then, I picked them way better than they ultimately turned out to be.
Yeah.
Like we knew that. Remember, like 2022, a little bit was a
Yeah.
facade.
Yeah.
Like they did it with smoke and mirrors. There was a lot of excitement when the first year of Joe Judge, when Joe Judge was hired, not necessarily for the team that they were going to put on the field, but for like the program was going to head in the right direction. Then they signed Kenny Galladay, Golden Tate, had
How those
Daniel,
contracts work
Jones.
out?
So I would say it's like equivalent to that. Now you have obviously a much more accomplished head coach, but there was a lot of hope. Remember Daniel Jones,
Yeah.
that rookie year, he had through 24 touchdown passes as a rookie.
Yeah. And then his first game, what he did in that opener. So yeah, there was a lot of optimism. So we're in a place that at the very least we haven't been in a couple years. And by the way, hit us up. We're streaming live on YouTube at Ty D Butler at Jordan Raanan. So pull up in the comments. This brings me to the big, and here's why I love it. The biggest news of the week: Dexter Lawrence trade request. Because I'm just so bored talking about the Jets and their quarterback situation. It's like, man, can I just get something else? Can I get some more juice? But with Dexter Lawrence, I know you've done a ton on this. My instant reaction, Jordan, was like I wasn't surprised, and it's not because I was predicting Dexter Lawrence is gonna request a trade, but it's like we see this in the NFL all the time, man. When you are considered one of the best at your position, due for a payday, you start to look at that depth chart of wait, I'm the 10th highest paid guy at my position. We've got to change that. And so like you felt something along the lines of this happening, and I just wasn't surprised. I'm still not at the point, and obviously, you are more insightful when it comes to this, that I think he will get moved. I just don't see, like, if you're John Harbaugh and you're building up this defense, how getting rid of one of your best defensive players makes you better. But I wasn't shocked when I saw this. What was your reaction?
Yeah, no, I clearly wasn't shocked. This is something you kind of saw coming for a while, and not necessarily for the same reason that you're saying. Even more so on the Dexter Lawrence has just seemed unhappy side for the better part now of basically 2 years. You could see it on his face. You could see it in the locker room. You could hear it after games. You hear whispers about his relationship with Joe Shane not being like all these things. you put it together then, and then you throw in the fact that the second he signs his contract, by the way, like within 2 weeks, he already dropped down like 3 spots on the pecking order. Because if you remember, that was kind of the thing. He signs first. Quinnen Williams and Jeffrey Simmons, I believe it was the next two. They sign right after. Then Chris Jones is already had. So from the jump, you're at number 4, right? And then so as we go along, now we're looking at he's 10th. He's set to earn $20 million this year. That's 10th among interior defensive tackles. Like that doesn't even count John Franklin Myers, who, by the way, is getting more than that. And Ty, John Franklin Myers is a good player.
Really
I like
good.
him.
Really good.
He ain't Dexter Lawrence. He's not even in the same neighborhood, man. I'm sorry. Like, he's a good player. Dexter Lawrence is, we need to double team this guy consistently every game. And so the unhappiness is why I'm not surprised we got to this point. And I actually heard, dating back to the start of last year, he was open to a fresh start.
Really? So is that about losing, or is that about like getting paid?
I think it's everything. The losing is certainly a big part of it. The program has been bad. You keep saying, hey, we're going to turn it around. You give renewed hope every year, and guys buy in. And then doesn't that get exhausting when you keep getting fed the same stuff? Now, a little different this year. You have a new regime. You have John Harbaugh, who has a history of success. But on top of everything, on top of the losing, on top of the, trying to buy in and believe when maybe deep down you don't believe it, right? On top of all that, then you have the idea of, look at his best friend, best friend is Leonard Williams, right? Leonard Williams went off. Greener Pasture just won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He's really close with Saquon Barkley. He's friends with Julian Love, 2 good friends. Their wives, I believe, are friends. Really close with Saquon Barkley. Really close, right? Saquon goes off to Greener Pastures, wins the Super Bowl. And then here's Dexter Lawrence. It reminds me of the Will Smith meme from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when he's in the room by himself.
Yeah, looking around.
Like looking around. I think it's like the final scene of the show. I think that's what that's from, if I remember right. But like, I got to believe, just based off the information around it, that's kind of how Dexter Lawrence probably feels here.
Wait, so like, how likely is it that this thing gets? Because listen, 10 minutes ago, before I got all of that insight from you, I'm thinking this will get done. Harbaugh doesn't seem to be, overly panicked. Everyone's got a price, right? Like anyone can be had, but like they'll make it work. But now I'm starting to think, I don't know, man. Like, are we headed toward a divorce? Because I thought money could just fix this thing. Like, you're unhappy.
The Giants had been unwilling, though. That was the weird part to me. They haven't really been that willing to want to do it. And on top of that, if you go look back at last year, and I think, again, all these things keep building and adding up, right? They weren't really that willing to address it last year when he was coming off an amazing year. Yeah. And so what they do, they put a Band-Aid on it. They gave him like, oh, all right, here's some incentives. So you may, I think he ended up making $1 million plus extra, which, granted is something, but when we're talking NFL money, so you're at like $21 million. That would be, that's not really making a dent into, okay, what is my real value here? You're not really getting to that of what it would be if he was on the open market. So it just block upon block, you keep piling them up. And I think that's how you get to this point. So I don't know. I think like you, the most likely scenario is Dexter Lawrence will be back. John Harbaugh seems to think that'll be the case. He wants Dexter back. They just built the team. I think that's why they built the defense around the idea that he was going to be there. It would be a very difficult pivot for them right now. So that's why I'm certainly leaning in the direction that they will get it done. But at the same time I did have somebody tell me who used to work with John Harbaugh. He's like, knowing Harbs, what he would want to do in a situation like this, hey, get him a whole bunch of draft picks, even if it's like 2 seconds and a fifth, something like that, and say, oh, I'll fill that hole with with multiple players. And on top of that, I'm getting rid of somebody who doesn't really want to be here and is malcontent.
See, that part shocks me because how I look at this whole situation is, here's a head coach who is 63 years old. So he's not looking at some 5 to 10-year plan. He's got a quarterback, and that's where it starts, right? So you've got the head coach quarterback combination. Harbaugh just exited a half-decade long Super Bowl window in Baltimore, and that dude has no appetite to rebuild. And so I'm thinking, all right, does it make sense to replace this guy with second and fifth round pick? That's why it's so mystifying to me.
I agree. You're not going to replace him with those guys, especially this year. But maybe it is better for the long term. As you're sitting there saying, I'm thinking, well, the smart thing to do maybe is you realize, look, the goal shouldn't be to jump into being an instant Super Bowl contender, right? They just won 7 games over 2 years. This roster is not in great shape. Yeah. Okay, we sit here and we people drool over certain names on the roster. Top to bottom, the roster is not good enough. The evidence is there. I won 4 games this year. I won 3 games the year before. I mean, don't get ahead of yourself. The goal should be make a jump this year, compete next year for real. So if you say what's the best route 2 years down the line, I guess I could be sold that. I still would keep Dexter Lawrence, especially since you just planned on it. And if you are going to move on from him, fine. Keep him happy now. Give him a reward now. Redo the deal. And then if you want to, trade deadline or next offseason, go ahead. Make that move. But because you're already planned, I think it's really hard to do right now.
Yeah, and also, what message does it send to the rest of your team, like the guys in that locker room, if you're just trading him away?
I guess 2 things. One, I'm not messing around, I'm not effing around, right?
Sure.
Or 2, hey, we're going to take care of our own guys that we know are good teammates and good players and that have been here and done what we've asked. So
I get it. At Ty D Butler, at Jordan Raanan on Twitter. And, I was scouring your timeline in preparation for this. You laid out something interesting this morning. How does this sound for the Giants? Keep Dexter Lawrence, take Jeremiah Love with the 5th pick in the draft, and then you take a guard in round 2, Keelan Rutledge or Chase Basantis, and that, what is that, like your ideal, how the first 2 rounds of the draft plus like this Dexter Lawrence situation comes about?
You would have to address Dexter Lawrence. You can't let Dexter Lawrence walk and then not address that pick in like the 1st or 2nd round. That would be tough. But yeah, I think I'm just looking at scenarios that I think are possible to unfold. And so I was thinking, because I've been talking to a bunch of people, the Giants are going to draft an offensive lineman in the 1st or 2nd round. Okay. And I know people were talking yesterday about the concept of taking an offensive lineman at number 5. Peter Schrager from ESPN put Francis Noah, something like that. I'm pronouncing it somewhat right, but not really right.
It's like what people do to your last name.
But I'm sure he has a G in there. So what does he expect? He's got to understand that that's how it's going to go. The fact that I have it as a silent G should be a win alone. But they're going to take an offensive lineman in the 1st or 2nd round. And so I was like, okay, what's the scenario that they maybe would take one in the 2nd round? And that was it. And I know everybody's putting Jeremiah Love to the Titans at 4. Right? Ty, yeah. I'm telling you. I don't think he's going to the Tennessee Titans at 4.
Wait, is this breaking news?
Not breaking news, in my opinion.
Okay.
I just don't think he's going to end up with the Tennessee Titans at pick number 4.
Salah's not going? Salah's not going for that?
I don't know. I mean, he's a defensive guy. I could certainly see him going the defensive route. Just my opinion. But that then sits there. Now you're sitting there at number 5 and you're the Giants and Jeremiah Love's there. And the potential, you think he's the best player in this draft. Now, positional value, you have to weigh that, the contract. You're not getting the deal that you would for an offensive lineman, right? Because they're getting paid $30 million a year. Running backs, he'd be a top 10 paid running back, I think right around top 10 right away. You need him to be good immediately.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little on the, the leaner side. Injuries at the position, attrition. It's all real. I get it. But I do think if that's the scenario that plays out, there's a good chance the Giants pull the trigger at Jeremiah Love at 5.
All right, so that's very interesting. I want to get to that in a moment. But my question, listening to you speak just now, what's the difference between Tennessee and the Giants? They've got similar profiles, right? You've got a new head coach. You've got a quarterback you drafted last year who you're high on. And so you want to arm him with as much talent on the offensive side of the ball as possible. So, like, what would be the difference between Tennessee doing it versus the Giants doing it?
They're just different teams. Maybe they want to do different things. I agree with you. I'm not basing it off what I would do. I'd be very reluctant to draft a running back at number 5 in the top 5. I get it in this draft because there just isn't those kind of players that there usually are. It's not a great draft. It's not a great draft to be in the top 5. It's not a great draft to be in the top 10. Some of the best players, we're talking about Sonny Styles, Jeremiah Love, Caleb Downs, are at non-premium positions that you generally don't really want to take in the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
You would love for there to be all-world tackle, right? Who is a slam dunk that you don't have to worry about for a second, and he's going to be Walter Jones or Jonathan Ogden or Trent Williams, but it doesn't seem like those guys exist. There's no Darrelle Revis or something, Darrelle Revis actually got drafted in, I think, the 20s.
Yeah.
But there's no guys that, at least coming into the draft, project as slam dunk, like super high-end prospect guys for the most part. There's a lot of guys with questions.
So the Jeremiah Love thing, I'm with you. Just on, so who led the NFL in rushing last year? He was the second round pick. I'm talking about the James Cook for the Bills. Like a second round pick led the NFL in rushing. So I think it's less about us.
Who led the NFL in total yards though?
Was it Henry?
I'm guessing off the top of my head, it was probably Bijan.
Oh, probably Bijan. But I mean, still, like James Cook leading the NFL in rushing as a second round pick. Like I think it's less about us devaluing the running back position and more about, and you might be right with Bijan. I'd imagine you're right. And more about, like, I don't need to take a guy like that with a top 5 pick, because if I have a great offensive line, I can get another talented running back, and maybe, with my innovative, awesome offensive scheme, I can get similar production. But you know what? I agree with you. Like, I wouldn't take Jeremiah Love at 5, but I don't think that this is, because a lot of Giant fans have like the 2018 PTSD. I don't think this is the same thing.
No, because what were we talking about that year? It was about, you need to draft a quarterback and start over. And look, I'm kind of against the idea of a running back in the top 5 also. There's just the injury part of it. It's just a position that gets injured. You're not getting great value on it. But I understand it this year. I'm not like in 2018, I was like, it's just stupid. Okay. It's just stupid. You need a quarterback. You need to start over. You just went, what was it? 3-13. They went 3-13 and decided to roll it back and draft. And they had no line, and their line still isn't great. That worries me a little bit on that side. You have to have a good solution to that right guard spot. But at the same time, this isn't a great draft. You don't need the quarterback. So I wouldn't be yelling and screaming if I'm a Giant fan if I take Jeremiah Love in this case. Whereas if I was a Giant fan and it was the Saquon year, I would have been yelling and screaming, this is so stupid. What are we doing?
That was especially, like, a lot of people were, and I know you remember this, actually, Eli Manning is pretty good. He just needs an offensive line. And, like, with all due respect to Eli, he just was cooked at that point.
Eli admitted it later on. I think when he was getting put into like the Ring of Honor or whatever, he had a press conference with us. He was like, well, in reality, I guess that was probably done in those last couple of years anyway.
Yeah, we saw that, but people wanted to.
Anybody with their eyes open saw it, except people that were clouded by the Super Bowls.
Yo, but I kept arguing with Giant fans. No, he just needs an offensive line, and I'm just like, guys, like two things can be true. He is a legendary player for your franchise, the best quarterback in franchise history. They did him dirty, the last whatever was left of his prime
Yeah, they
by
didn't
not
give him
put.
much of a chance.
Yeah, but it could also be true that it was time to get his replacement. But
It's a
anyway,
wrap.
all that to say, I'm with you. I would not. They announced the fifth pick in the draft, Jeremiah Love. Like, I'm not outraged, and I'm not a Giant fan, but it would not outrage me. I think it would be the incorrect selection just because when you look at value chart and positioning, but it would make more sense. You've got a quarterback who's on his rookie contract. You've got a receiver who's on his rookie contract. And so you just want to add some more weapons to what you imagine could be an explosive offense, and it's predicated on that run game. What the quarterback can do, what he can do with his legs. And then we saw John Harbaugh invest big time money in a veteran, maybe the best or one of the best running backs of our generation, in Derrick Henry. So like I would understand the ideology, though I would disagree with it.
And this is part of the deal also. Like a guy like Jeremiah Love, I think you could look at it a little different than straight running back.
Yeah.
Top guys in yards from scrimmage last year: Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, and then Jonathan Taylor and James Cook, and then Jahmyr Gibbs. Like most of those guys, at least Robinson, McCaffrey at the top, and Jahmyr Gibbs as well.
Yeah.
Like there is a big pass catching element to them.
Correct.
Where they're sort of running back / wide receiver.
Yeah.
And so I think that also makes it a little bit more palatable when you're talking about taking a player that high. He has to be able to do that part of it. And Jeremiah Love is. And remember, they let Wan'Dale Robinson walk in free agency. So you could use Jeremiah Love as sort of like a slot / running back, which would obviously be a big workload, but you're drafting with the fifth pick. You're expecting a lot.
But I mean, I guess the counter to that would be how good were those teams? The Lions missed the playoffs. The Falcons missed the playoffs.
Yep.
The Niners won a playoff game that they were
none of them were real serious contenders for the Super Bowl, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Except for the Bills.
Yeah, and then James Cook isn't really like that pass catching back. He was really more out of the back. I'm just sad listening to that. No Breece Hall on that list. Like that just crushes me. Breece Hall.
He was 14th.
That's bad. Shout out Jake Asman. Says Jordan looks so tan.
I think it's actually the lighting. So I'm using my computer as the camera, and it just makes my face look very red every time.
Wait, so
crappy camera.
But are you a tan guy? Like you go to the
beach I'm super tan. Yeah, for sure.
Really?
I mean, I've also in the last February, 6 weeks been to Cancun in Arizona.
I was gonna ask you because there was a trip I saw. Wait, what's this? A wedding band?
I'm showing them tan.
Oh, I thought
but for some reason, it makes my face, the ring light and the lighting, just makes my face look red.
I thought you were showing me your wedding band. I'm like, Jordan, I know you're married. Did you get
No. But look at my hand compared to my face. My face looks like a tomato on the screen. And my hand is more like my actual real coloring.
I do see it. But shout out Jake Asman showing us stuff on YouTube.
He's everywhere, that guy.
Yo, he does it. He's headed to the draft. He's going to be at the draft, hosting like a draft party with the Asmaniacs.
Of course he is.
Are you going to be at the draft?
No, we don't go to the draft. We were at the team facility because remember the GMs and coaches and everyone that matters in the organization is at the facility. So after they make the pick, they come downstairs, they go to the auditorium, and then we go in there and we talk to the GM and the coach. And
gotcha.
So, and also think about it. Let's say I go. The Giants are picking fifth. Somehow Fernando Mendoza or somebody like him drops to the fifth pick and the Giants decide to take him. And guess what? He's not even at the draft.
Yeah.
I just picked Fernando Mendoza, obviously, because I know he's not attending the draft.
Yeah.
But you get the point.
I understand. Let's hit. So what would I'm trying to figure this out. So if they do take Jeremiah Love, what does that mean for Cam Scatterbo? Nothing?
It definitely means a smaller role. I think it more puts to the question what Tyrone Tracy's future would be with the team. But yeah, Cam Scatterbo would be like a 1-2 punch, the two of them together, using them as much as possible on the field at the same time. Love as a receiver. But also remember, we have to see where Cam Scatterbo is at, what he can handle, especially early in the year. His last time we saw him, Ty, his foot was facing in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So
And last time we heard from him, his brain was in the wrong direction.
yeah, that's another story.
Actually, no pun intended.
Yeah, he's learning that those kind of jokes just don't fly when you're in the public light because you're insulting people who maybe are affected by these kind of things, and you just can't callously make those kind of jokes when you're a person that's in his position.
Yeah, 100% agrees. But a smaller role for him, and then I mean, but you said
I think it's a smaller role for him to start is probably realistic, regardless, because he's coming back from this injury.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it'll be a slow integration, regardless. It would be silly to let's say they don't draft Jeremiah Love. Cam Scatterbo can't be playing 75% of the snaps at the start.
But you predicted he's because I saw you talking about and I was going to ask you for injury updates. So how about you give that to us on both Neighbors and Scatterbo?
I think Scatterbo's probably. They mentioned that it's possible he gets on the field this spring in some degree. I doubt he's going to be doing anything with contact, but still, the fact that he's on the field to some degree, great sign. I think he'll be participating in training camp at some point again. If I'm the Giants, I'm sure they will, bringing him along slowly. Malik Neighbors is the bigger concern here when we're talking about week 1 at this point, unless Scatterbo has some sort of setback. Originally it was okay, trending towards he'll be ready for training camp. He had full meniscus repair in addition to ACL reconstruction. Now we're talking about, all right, closer to the season is how John Harbaugh put it. I'm looking at my notes here. Closer to the season, sometime in training camp, maybe closer to the season of when he gets back on the field. Now, when we're talking about when he gets back on the field and starts practicing, if we're talking about late August, early September, yeah, week 1 is definitely at least somewhat in jeopardy when we're talking about Malik Neighbors. So I think that's something we got to monitor as we go along here.
You mentioned him earlier, Caleb Downs, and highest drafted safeties, and this was on your timeline maybe yesterday, this century, which is instructive. Doesn't necessarily mean this is how it'll play out, but very instructive for those like trying to, game plan or mock draft. Highest drafted safeties this century. Sean Taylor goes to Washington. Eric Berry in Kansas City, both at pick number 5. Caleb Downs on the table for the Giants at the 5th pick?
At 5, I'm not so sure. I think that would be a little bit of a reach at this point. I do. I don't think he's at the level of those kind of prospects.
No.
Sean Taylor was just otherworldly at Miami. Eric Berry at Tennessee was crazy good. He was a really good NFL player, great NFL player too, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
Not sure Caleb Downs, while very, very good, is quite at that level, has that sort of range maybe that would dictate being that high a pick in regards to, being able to play center field and safety in the NFL. Like, not like a ridiculous out of this world, athlete to that degree. So I'm not so sure. That's kind of what I was getting at there. Like, hey, you have to be the top of the line safety prospect to be a 5th pick in the draft. Now, if they move back and they're at 8, 10, 12, I think he's perfectly in play.
That was what I was going to ask you next. The potential for them to move down.
Problem with this is, like we keep saying, it's not a great draft, Ty. I don't think there's going to be a ton of teams dying to move up and paying a decent price for it. Like everyone would love to move up in theory, right? Shoot, of course I'd love to pick earlier.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm not going to give you much to do it. I think that's kind of where we're at.
Because I was gonna like what has to unfold the first 4 picks where the Giants just look at what's there at 5 and say, I'm good. Like I can just get someone else and then add draft capital.
Maybe one of the edge rushers, Bailey or Reese.
Alien Reese.
Somebody loves one of those guys. You tell me what you think. Jeremiah Love sitting there at 5. Is there a team that is really willing to pay for that? Like Kansas City just signed a running back. New Orleans just signed a running back.
I think Kansas City's going defense. Because and I would have if Kenneth Walker doesn't sign there, I think they're, or maybe they go wide
offensive line. The offensive line. I think
or
Kansas City's a trenches team.
Yeah, but even and to your point, now that Mahomes is coming off of this injury, because I was going to say I think they can go receiver too. I was part of the crowd that just overrated their receiving core. I thought Worthy, Rice, like those guys all healthy would be great, and it just never happened. But now with Mahomes coming off the injury, do you want him dropping back as many times as he did? So that you get your running back, and maybe they just.
I think perhaps a better solution for them, and they're a smart organization. You say, okay, their receivers aren't going to. Well, then who has their number one receiver been for a long time? It's been Travis Kelce, basically, anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe you go and you get the understudy to Kelce to eventually take over.
Maybe.
The Oregon kid who's just unbelievable, Sadiq. The guy from Vanderbilt is really good. Eli Stowers, like some pretty good options in the draft. It would be fun at least.
Wait, can I ask you something non-Giant related?
Yeah, go ahead.
What's your intel on Ty Simpson? Like, is he going in the first round?
Yes, I do think he'll go in the first round. The belief from the people I talked to, and look, the idea that you go early in the second round doesn't even make sense to me. We've seen it time and time again. Jackson Dart, same thing.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody is going to take him in the early part of the second round, you just move up and go to the back end of the first round and take him because you want that 50-year option later on down the road. It's huge. And so you just do it. So the likelihood from the people I talk to is that Ty Simpson will go somewhere at the bottom half of round 1.
Is that the Jets?
You want the Jets? I think the Jets, from talking to people, are willing to put that off for another year. The quarterback position.
But here's my conflict with that. Because in theory it makes sense. But I just don't understand how you could be operating with next year in mind when next year is not promised to you.
Yeah.
And now you're putting all your eggs in the basket of Geno Smith.
Are we sure Muji doesn't have next year?
Well, maybe he does. But I would imagine, like, as high as people seem to be on him now, because he has made some really good trades, and I understand that. If they're a disaster next year, they're 2-15. Like, some of that's on the general manager. Like, you put together a 2-15 team after putting together a 3-14 team.
I don't know. He's looking across town. He looked at 3-14 and 4-13 after 4 years, and Joe Shane's still there.
But he got demoted. Joe Shane got demoted.
Maybe I could last 5 years. His salary didn't get demoted.
I guess, but his power, and you know this better than me, within the organization doesn't seem to be the same.
He still has the chance to do, to win it back. And like, look, Elliott Wolf, remember, same thing happened to him in New England.
Yep.
What happened to Elliott Wolf? He brought his team to the Super Bowl. He's feeling good right now. Yeah. Now he has Ryan Cowden still sitting behind him, and he's feeling good about himself.
Are we sure we want to bring up the Patriots today?
Yeah. I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out.
It's actually time for me to go in 2 minutes. Ty. Good out right there.
All right. Last question for you.
You got it.
As for Giants, I look, this is unfair to ask, so I'm not gonna hold you to this, but based on the vibes, right? That's not analytical. That's just like what we're watching and how we're feeling. Playoffs really on the table next year?
I think it's a long shot, right? I think they still have a long way to go. Schedule's not super easy. They have some really tough road games. I think they're more likely around the playoff team. I mean, sorry, around 500. I don't know why I said playoff team. You were talking about playoff. I think more likely around 500. Like if they go 8-9, 7-10, 9-8. Like I think that's their range. Now maybe you could sneak into the playoffs at 9-8, but like I said, that's why I think it's probably a long shot to expect that much of a jump. There's still a lot of questions with this team defensively. Yes, they have good edge rushers. Like, are they good enough all around? Is their secondary good enough? Their depth on the defensive line is extremely concerning. We'll see where that lands. Offensive line, is it really solved? Is it really fixed? Like the interior has major questions in my mind. You have a quarterback who still has to make that jump in his second year. We'll see. And Malik Neighbors' health is something that's kind of, we're just going to assume he's going to come back and be the number one superstar receiver right away when he's in a race against time to be back for week one. I got some questions about whether that happens right away, or like maybe we won't see that Malik Neighbors until week 6 or 7. You know what I mean?
Well,
Not at the level you want him to be at.
Well, smart people that we are very fond of have the Giants winning a Super Bowl in the next 5 years. So at least like, we got that going for us. Yo, Jordan.
So he at least laid out a decent plan for me. His thinking was this year, like I said, in that 500-ish type range. Next year, kind of get into being a playoff contender, and after that, being a Super Bowl contending team. Which that I can buy into. Like 2 years down the line, okay, if your quarterback is who you think he is, you have enough time to build and get there, and then be, years 3, 4, and 5. Okay, I could buy that. Not like, okay, going to be 12-5 this year. I would have been like, okay, good luck.
Yo, it's always great having you on, man. I appreciate you. We'll definitely do this again. Have fun the next couple weeks, and I'll talk to you soon, bro.
All right, man. Appreciate you, Ty. Speak soon.
Absolutely. Jordan Raanan does a tremendous job. He hopped on, put us on